वहां बिजनेस जगत के दिग्गजों का महामेला लगा है। अवार्ड्स में वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण ने अपने संबोधन में कई बड़ी बातें कही। देश की ग्रोथ स्टोरी पर बात की, कहा ग्लोबल अनिश्चितता के बावजूद भी भारत निवेश के लिए सबसे अच्छी जगह है। वहीं ईटी अवार्ड्स में वित्त मंत्री का बड़ा बयान दिया और कहा कि कैपिटल गेन टैक्स को लेकर सारी अटकलें निराधार है।
Since the last 1.5 years, gradually our central bank is also decoupling itself. Not that it was entirely linked with the US Fed even earlier, but post the pandemic and post the Russia-Ukraine, the sense that all central banks would look for a direction and move towards that direction sequentially is clearly disproved in the conduct of many emerging market central banks, not just India. So for India, I would think the contagion risk is not really a problem, but the risk is there in the sense when markets to which you largely exported are coming under recession, then the demand is going to fall, your exports are going to suffer. So that risk is definitely there. I'm not eliminating that. But the contagion risk, usually linked to the conduct of the central banks, I would think is not there for us to face. Well, for once, I'm going to talk completely in favor of the private sector, from their side. If after 2019, bringing down the corporate tax, and giving a time till March 2023 to expand businesses or set up new businesses and everything else. If the world had been normal, I think to be a bit tough and expect saying you've not really come out in flying colors would have been a reasonable argument. But if immediately after 2019, October when this was announced, September end, you had the pandemic and how? And after that, you also have the uncertainties of the war. But despite all this, I still can see many expansions happening, new investments happening. Otherwise, why will there be such a impactful impression about India and its attempts to bring in renewable energy? Look at the keenness with which people are coming to India to set up in many fields, whether it is your semiconductors or looking at renewable energy or looking at rare earths. And also because the policy per se has now opened up even space sector. I was there in a different context releasing a book. I did speak about India's public sector enterprises policy, which actually has opened up so many areas in which private sectors can come and invest. In fact, there's no area left without the private sector coming into it. So with all this, I can see, otherwise India's space industry, even as it was doing very well, wouldn't have had so many private parties coming in and saying, we would like to use the facility. So it is happening. Let me be very clear, I'm not justifying it. I remember in 2019, I was pilloried saying, oh, tax terrorism. You questioned me several times on it. I'm not suggesting that that word is not being used, that expression is not coming about now, and therefore there's no terrorism. I'm not saying that. There can be some harassment here, harassment there, harassment some places. But today, when you're looking at deep data and AI-driven, faceless-driven systems, the fact that trails are coming out, obviously, and the trails going to shell companies are there in your face, I can't see how the CBDT or CBIC can remain mute spectator. How the boards can remain a mute spectator. When data is active, it is showing. And if brazen misuse is happening in some sections, it's only natural that you should go. And I'm glad, and efficiently if they're going, I'm glad. Because that has to be plugged. So those who are genuinely and rightly paying taxes will lose faith if there are, there are pictures put out. Shell companies, about 300 of them, operating in about a 50 square meter area with just one table and chair and getting refunds to the extent of about 400 crores. Would you expect the department to sit quiet and watch? Obviously, they'll go. So I don't want this to be a conversation eternally about India's and tax authority. Tax authorities are now sitting up and being ready to answer as well. But if you're going to be quiet for fear that you'll be accused of unleashing a certain kind of terrorism, the inefficiencies will only perpetrate. We don't want that. We need to appreciate people who are paying genuinely the tax, and those who are misusing it will have to be called out.